Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Live Scribbles with Jonathan. My name is Jonathan Rector. You can check out my website and my work at jonathanrector.com. And today, we're still looking at the exact same page here. This page is done. We finished it yesterday after the stream. I made a pretty good dent in it during the stream. But today, hopefully throughout the stream, if I'm lucky, we'll be able to finish a good chunk of the inking here and wrap it up. So I've got all my panels set up on the right, and just like we were doing before, I've got one folder literally called inks, and I like to make a new layer for every panel. Sometimes it doesn't work out that way. I'll just leave one layer and just do all the inks on that anyway. But in a perfect world, to keep things clear, that's what I'll, keep each layer for each panel. And I want to say thank you so much again to everybody that's been liking, sharing the video, the stream. Everything has been awesome. Appreciate all the support. And if you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to ask them in the chat. You just have to make an account. It's free. It doesn't take too long. And just ask your question in all capitals if you wouldn't mind. And for those of you that I would normally stream at night with, and you're maybe watching this on YouTube, if you do have a question, feel free to leave it in the comment box below. And I've been trying to take a look at the previous day's stream before this stream, like the current day stream kicks in, just to see what people are saying and try to address those questions during the show. That way, excuse me, I can try to help out as many people as I can. So I'm just going to start with this one here, a little simpler one. And now that I'm looking at this one, his arm is really small. I don't know what's going on here. So let's go ahead and let's try to quickly fix this. Panel 2. I think all this is on the same layer. Yeah, okay. So I'm just going to fix this arm. Just going to make it a little bit bigger. Just looks a tad too small. We'll see what happens here. That's a little better. Hey, Repa. Hey, no problem. Thanks for coming in, man. During lunch yesterday, I cracked open the sketchbook, and I started drawing a character that you guys may be familiar with, named, the project's called Squirrel God. I don't know if I'm going to still keep that title, or if the main character's name is that, but it was real fun to draw him. I haven't drawn him in a while, just, the recurring theme in most of these videos I do with you guys are deadlines. And that's exactly what it's been. So I haven't really had much time to work on that. So it was refreshing to just sketch them. And I know, sketchbooks, they can be taken for granted, especially when, you don't really have too much time to do it. Right now what I'm doing is I'm working on my core blacks. Should we call that? Basically, your major blacks on the image and cast shadows. So the light's coming from behind him, so I'm just giving him a little bit of a underlining light source to the mask part here. And fill in these solid black areas. Just trying to think. It's pretty. He should be pretty heavily shadowed here. So let's just get careful with it. No, like the title itself, I'm pretty sure is going to remain Squirrel God. I did get the website and all that stuff for it, but the character's name I don't think was ever Squirrel God. He was just like the god of squirrels kind of thing. That'll play a little bit more out in the story. But, I haven't really come up with a title for him yet, like a name. And that whole project and a lot of the projects I've been doing, usually how they'll work is I'll just kind of sketch in my sketchbook or have an idea of a character and then start writing a story around them. Not really too much of like an idea man when it comes to that kind of stuff. Alright, let's see if we can a little emotion in here. So right now I'm just carving out where the shadows are going to be. I just find it easier to work like this. I know some people don't they prefer to, like, if I was to do shading, let's say on his chest, they would like prefer to shade like this, and you can kind of like feel the shading a little bit better. I like to just work in these chunk shapes like this. I'll just give him a little bit of highlight under here. So that's gonna be black, and do a little more over here too. And I'll keep going through the whole image like this until I feel like it's getting lost. And then at that point, I'll start filling in these blacks just to see exactly what it's looking like. So, and a little inker trick, in case you guys don't know, I'm pretty sure it's pretty easy information to find, but you put these little X's in spots. That's supposed to be for when you send your pencils to an inker. They know those spots are filled with black. If you are the inker, sometimes I'll do it anyway from reminder of myself because I like to move around a lot. Oh, this will work in. Just darken those areas up a bit. Morning, Zelda. Yeah, we're always doing the Q&A thing. Oh man, I forgot my water. Give me one quick second, guys. If you want, you can go ahead and ask your question. I'll be right back. Take me like a minute. I just gotta grab some water. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Hey, how's it going, Sullen? Alright, let's get back to the ink in here. And then we'll get into that nice rendering. I know a lot of people, they usually always ask about rendering, so I'll go over it again with you guys. Okay, so here's an area. You guys, I don't know if you guys can really see, but all of this area right here is going to be in black. All of this is going to be in black. But then we have this like white kind of area here, which will be filled with color. Sometimes what I like to do, I recommend you try doing it yourself if you're into the shading and stuff, if you're not doing it. As opposed to just going straight down like this. This is a collarbone area, or above the pec, so let's try to round it out. It just gives it more form, you know. It gives the shadow. It makes it look like it's literally rounding over the form, which helps sell that illusion of depth. And generally, you want to always be conscious of that. A lot of the standard here is going to be in shadow. So again, I'm going to do it right here as well. Just round it out a little bit. That'll be black. Okay, so we got a question this morning. If you're creating a portfolio to present to a client, how would you go about doing that, and do you have any tips for it? The first question I want to ask you is, what kind of portfolio is it? Is it are you trying to get comic work? Are you trying to get illustration work? Comic work. Okay. The best recommendation I could give is it's not okay. Your portfolio, from what I've heard anyway, it's never really about volume. It's about consistency and quality. So it's not about, they open it going, holy fuck, it's a sketchbook in here. I would probably say the contrary. If you give them a sketchbook that's anywhere near 20 pages, it's too much. What I would probably do is, especially comic work, you could get away with, because what I'll tell you here will actually show whoever you're trying to get work from exactly what you can do. Probably do 2 3-page stories, and possibly, or even 1 5-page story with a splash page. The splash page will show you a couple of things. One, you can do a splash page, which most people could probably do because it's an illustration. And it kind of acts as a cover as well. It's a little bit different doing a cover, but, it's still there. And the interior work, you should be able to tell somebody's artistic quality as soon as you open a sketchbook. Don't go, don't do the stuff where I'm going to save my best for last stuff. You need to get them right off the crack as soon as they open it, and it's like a roller coaster ride, right? You don't want them to want to get off at all. You want them to enjoy the whole ride. So I would recommend keeping it under 10 pages. One of the things, I was going to do this on the regular YouTube show, and I just haven't gotten a chance to do it for the Ninja Turtle stuff. If it's for a company like Marvel or DC, maybe write a story yourself, real simple. It can be literally as simple as the X-Men, let's say, going against, I don't know, Juggernaut or or Magneto. Somebody different. Shows, environments. Show everything that you're good at. If you're not good at drawing backgrounds, don't draw them. But just be aware that most comic book, I guess, clients, if you want to call them, or writers usually, or people that are going to give you money to draw comics, they expect you to be able to draw anything and everything. And very rarely you'll get people that'll just come to you for like a certain thing. Like, just say people like the way I draw anatomy. They're not just going to come to me like, I just want you to draw anatomy for 22 pages. It's probably not going to happen. And anyway, so your script that you come up with these characters could literally be your first page is showing the environment where it's at, and showing, I don't know, the main heroes, so the X-Men. So you show the X-Men showing up to like a destroyed city or something. Page 2, all of a sudden the bad guy shows up. Work that in somehow. Maybe he gets in a cheap hit. Page 3, probably a fight scene. And page 4, maybe the heroes win, but the bad guy gets away, or they beat the bad guy and capture him. That'll show you more than enough. Within there, you could even throw in an extra page if you want to show emotion from like people. Maybe there's like women and children running around, stuff like that. I really wouldn't worry about it. And wrap that one up. Then include like another 4 or 5 pages of maybe a boyfriend and a girlfriend walking through the park on a date. And maybe there's a joke in there. And what you would do that way is not just show that you can draw superhero action, but you're showing that you could draw everyday people. Another thing that's really cool about that too is the first one you just showed a cityscape, which traditionally that's where superheroes take place. And then the second thing is you just showed people walking through a park. So now you got like a forest kind of area, right? And maybe a little couple animals. So you're just showing different things there. And the quality of line work there should be more than enough to get you work if somebody wants to pay you for it, right? What's Hub saying? I was told to hit him with about 6 awesome pieces. After that, the flaws start to show. Yeah, exact thing. You don't have to show volume. That's the other thing too. Sorry, yeah, I forgot. Thank you. Is you could also include a resume in the front. You know what I mean? Or in the back. Just saying things like if you're concerned about showing them or letting them know that you've got published work or that you've done a lot of comics, just include that in your resume. you can write in there was published here and here. This comic was this 22-page book was published here. This graphic novel was published here. They don't need to see all of your comic book work. If they like your work, they'll want to work with you. And if they really like your work, they're going to go out and they're going to try to find your published work and look at it for themselves. But I know a lot of people, they're kind of hasty, so they'll judge you right away, right off from what they see. Alright, so let's zoom out here. We got all this stuff filled in with black now. I don't like the inking so far on this. I got to clean some of it up, but he's got a cast shadow here. So, see, this is like some of the stuff you just got to keep building up. So we got the shadows going in there, and, you know, a cast shadow from his head to cast on his body would look kind of cool. So I'm going to do that round shape again, and then I'm going to try to draw his head. It's probably not going to look much like a head, but I'm going to put most of his face here in shadow. Here's Hilda. Okay, let's just clean some of this ink up. It's looking like a hot mess. Oh, ooh. Alright, let's turn the opacity here. I blacked in something I shouldn't have. All of this. We'll figure it out in a second here. Okay. Alright, so we wanted his cheek to come in like that. Zelda, what are you doing? What are you doing? Hey, how's it going? Let's see if I get lucky. It's probably not going to happen. Let's see what happens. Cool. So I wanted to see if I had to redraw the whole S. Zelda. Do you think color is important in comic books? Sure. I don't think it's necessary, but depends on the book, right? Personally, over the last couple of years, I've gotten into manga. And as much as I'd wish a lot of the stuff was color, there's nothing wrong with black and white to me. In my mind, anyway. I find a lot of like American and Western comics, not like the genre is Western, but like Western Hemisphere comics. They seem to favor like really high production values. I'm not quite sure what that's all about. It looks good, like the finished product looks real shiny and nice, but I don't know. There's something a little bit more interesting about a black and white comic. That's all to say, there's stellar color work, that just makes certain comics just sing. Like I can't imagine reading Superman or something like that without color. Because let's be honest, he's got like heat vision, right? So being able to see that, a little bit different. Like Dragon Ball Z, I don't know if you guys have actually read it. You maybe have watched the show, but when you read it, it's hard to imagine a lot of the time like the energy that people are shooting at each other. He does an excellent job of like speed lines and making stuff look good. But if you can color a blast yellow, you could see it, you know? You could look at, yeah, like somebody's bringing up again, what's it called? 100 Bullets. That's a lot of black and white in there, but the coloring is kind of reminiscent of Hellboy in a way, where it's sort of flat colors with gradients here and there. And I just think that style looks real nice. You got to find, here's the thing, at least I've realized myself over the last few years, is that you can't just be a good colorist or a good illustrator and just have anybody throw color over your work. I've worked with quite a few colorists, and some of their stuff, just doesn't make my work look good, and it makes their coloring look like they can't really color that well. For example, like I've got a lot of shadows and stuff in my art. I know a lot of colorists, at least ones that I've worked with, they can't work with this kind of stuff. They need all this area so that they can render in their colors. I don't leave very much room for them to shine. So the kind of colors I need to work with, I found, especially when I go with this kind of heavy black style, is somebody like that's, I want to say minimalist, but they don't need a lot of rendering to get their colors to look good. And it takes practice to find that kind of stuff. Let me just zoom out here so we can see what's going on. Sullen's asking, not quite sure if it was already asked on YouTube, but are you inking traditionally as well sometimes? Not for client work. I do everything digital nowadays. I have been doing some panel breakdowns with pencil and then scanning them back in when I feel like I've just been staring at computers all day for too long. But my traditional inking doesn't go much farther than pens. And I'm talking like Bic pens, regular pens, nothing special. But I did get a brush pen, and I kind of like that. But I'm starting to realize the more that I use brushes, I don't really like them. And even this brush I'm using right now in Manga Studio, it feels kind of like a pen, but it can get a little out of control like a brush. Like if I'm not careful, the pressure sensitivity I add makes it get like flat blobs on there, and I don't know. I'm not really a fan of that. I like precision, I guess. So no. If I do commissions for people, like if people go to my website, you can order commissions and all that kind of stuff, and some of those are inked. So I do ink if I need to, but I just prefer not to. And it's probably just like a comfortable thing. I'm not comfortable with it just yet. I haven't had as much time as I'd like to experiment. Vargasny, sorry if I'm pronounced that wrong, is asking, what do you think about working with manga influenced style in some IP for present it to a publisher? It's hard to make a contract with this type of comic there in America. What do you think about... okay, if I understood your question right, I think you're asking, what do I think about if your style that you draw in is kind of like manga-esque, or it's got hints of manga. Manga. I don't know if you're talking about like the big anime eyes, or if you're talking speed lines up the a-hole. I think in America, over here in Canada anyway, the people that I talk to, manga's still, it's more accepted than it was when I was growing up. That's for sure. Well, comics in general are. The way I look at it is just know this. If you want to work for like Marvel or DC, just look at what they're bringing out, at least today. They probably won't be interested in that kind of style. And to be honest with you, if you draw in that style, your best source of income, I would assume, and hopefully I'm wrong, but would probably be independent comic work, which isn't to say independent comics are bad. They just require more love and attention, I find. But that's where like the creative stuff is. So, and just to cover my ass, because I know somebody will quote me on this, but That's not to say Marvel and DC aren't doing great stuff. I'm just saying, when you go to them, you know what you're getting. That's good and bad. They can only tell so many stories with the same characters over and over again, right? And that's a great boon, as well as, you know, it is what it is. They get criticism for a reason, but they keep making it because it makes money, right? So, but yeah, to answer your question, uh, I think it'll be pretty tough to get work unless you're going for independent stuff. So, when doing line work, does a landscape with a thinner line to show what? When doing line work, does a landscape get a thinner line to show distance and depth? Yeah, totally. You could put thinner lines in the background. It totally helps sell scale. That's for sure. Yep. Some people, if you look at what is his name, Mobius, he just recently passed away, but that guy's art, oh god, it's just disgusting. However, what he was able to do, like, I'm pretty sure most of his lines are just, it looks like he grabbed like a what's it called, a micron pen, just something that's flat, and he just drew everything like that. Every now and then, he might have line weights like to thicken something up, like let's like put a thick outline like around this guy, just to make him pop, you know. But yeah, just experiment with that stuff, guys. Sorry for the mic; it keeps smacking me in the face. It's weird. But I think a traditional illustration and art advice is to do that. Yeah, things lose. It's kind of going back to the color thing we were talking about. Things lose detail the further away they get from you. So as long as you remember that, I don't think you'll nail it every time, but you'll get closer and closer to getting where you want to go with it. Okay. Just adding some line weights to the bottom here, just to make these look like they're three-dimensional. And we'll get the peephole going. Now I'm thinking, just going to put a little curve of a shadow up here. Just like that. Just to help break it up a bit. And we'll carry that across. There you go. All right. Wow, it's already been like a half hour. Jeez, it's just flying. For the new viewers in the room, thank you so much for stopping by. If you've retweeted, shared, liked the video, came from YouTube, all that stuff, thanks so much. If you did have a question, the show's for you guys. So feel free to just ask in the chat. Please ask it in all caps so I can see that it's a question. And I mean, these questions could be anything you like. If it was like, hey, can you show me how to draw an arm? Hands, just general comic stuff like we've been talking about. It's all good. Okay, some of this stuff is starting to get away from me here. Alright, let's start doing some rendering here. Just keep in mind where your light source is when you're doing this stuff. Usually render into the light. I'm actually going to a lot of this black in here. I don't want them looking angry. Just add a little bit of white in there. How much rendering is too much rendering? That's a really good question. I think if you look at it and to you, it starts to look muddy. And by muddy, I mean like, okay, I'll just over render all of this fold area here. So if I start getting real close, I start rendering the other side, like that looks way too muddy, right? Like that's what I'm talking about when I say muddy. That's also to say that's not a bad thing. It's totally your call. Just try to keep clean with it. Some scenes like, I apologize again with the runny nose. If this was like a night scene and it was like a splash page, you know, like we got the standard standing over a body or something like that. Yeah, go to town. Have fun with it. But just be careful that you're not everything has to be rendered too, right? Like you can leave areas open where you don't touch it with shadow. It just helps give it some visual relief as well. So your reader isn't like overwhelmed with all kinds of stuff going on. Like all on this side's heavy shadow, so there's going to be more rendering there as opposed to on this side. This side will probably just end up doing this kind of thing here. Just light rendering, just to give it some texture. Alright, so I'll have like, that's probably about all I would have there. And then like, for example, down here, on this side of the cape, oops, probably go a little bit more. Or like longer lines if you want to call them. All this pec area here. We'll add a couple more lines here for his pecs. All of this bicep's pretty heavy here. Whoops. All right. What about like Brian Bolden when does a shit ton of rendering? I know some artists that they make a career on rendering, so I wouldn't worry about, you know, over rendering in that regard. I know I just said that, but what I should probably clarify. If you're not comfortable with rendering, or if people, you know, I don't say people are how you should judge your art, but if people are always commenting saying like, you over render, or, you know, you're not getting too much compliments on your rendering, you know, just take a critical look at it every now and then. Your best bet probably is look at a published artist, okay? Usually published artists, they don't over render too much. Or if they do, they're hired because of that style. You can look at someone like Bernie Wrightson. He does a lot of shadowing and rendering as well, but he has amazing art, and it's because his rendering makes sense. It's tied down to real life. And if you look at these guys and these girls that do this kind of stuff, and you kind of copy their stuff for a while in your sketchbook or whatever, just to influence yourself off their work, and it'll slowly start to show up in your own work. But the idea is like try to pick a good mentor, I guess, and see what their style does for you. Some people, they just don't like the way certain rendering looks. Some people don't like rendering at all. But if you like it, you gotta try to figure out. It's like a puzzle, Try to figure out how does it work, why does it work, and don't just swipe from one artist. Swipe from a bunch of artists so that you can understand what all these people are doing. All right, so let's take a look. So at this point, this is what I would talk about over rendering. It looks fine as is. Might actually go in here and just add some white, just to break the other side up. But where the over rendering would come in is if I kept going. Like, to me, this looks fine. I don't need to go any further. It tells me what I need to do, so I'm just going to walk away. Every area of him has light affecting him in a way, so I don't need to touch him anymore, And another trick too is he's obviously got some rendering done to him. I don't have to render out this door at all. It makes it look clean next to it. But what I will do is I do like to add a little bit of broken stuff up here. Just they kind of look like just lines thrown wherever. I'll put like a little bit of texture on the door. Who knows? But I don't want to over-render this. It is just a frame. Nothing too crazy. But it just gives a little bit of detail. Do you have a maximum brush size? Example, nothing over 0.90 millimeters when inking lines. The brush I use is down here, the Maru brush. The size is actually at 1 millimeter. Usually it's at about 1.1, 1.2. Sometimes I don't even notice that it goes down. I'm using this in teak, so I think my thumb accidentally hits up and down sometimes when I'm trying to hit the space bar. But for rendering, sometimes I'll go down to about 1.1. And that's about it. I don't have any correction. I don't have the stroke in or out on. Nothing like that. Alright, so this panel here we kind of already did. I was showing you guys that example of having the light cast into the hallway. But the standard here, he's actually going to be pretty covered in shadow. Alright, first let's try to establish where his ear is. Because even though we don't really draw it, the shadows need to be placed on it. So put there, cast a shadow from the ear. So all that'll be black. Ryan Cole is actually asking a really good question. Are you using Manga Studio 4 because of the Pages feature? I like Manga Studio 5 much better for non-comic stuff. That's exactly why I'm using it. It took me a very long time to understand Manga Studio to the point where I was comfortable with it, where I feel like I could do anything I wanted. Sometimes if I have to do like special effects or something like speed lines, I can just look online real quick for a tutorial. But for the most part, yeah, I'm comfortable with this. I do have Manga Studio 5, and I agree with you. For non-comic book stuff, it feels really awesome. But for comic book work, I don't know. It just feels like it's like a step back for some reason. Even Manga Studio 4 feels like a better program for comics than 5 does. Now, it's saying that Manga Studio 5 EX, from what I hear, is supposed to fix a lot of that stuff. It's supposed to go back to more comic book thing. It's supposed to have the Pages feature and all that stuff. So, and for those of you that don't use Manga Studio, what is the Pages feature? Up here at the top left of any project you have, You have your story and your page. So this is the page I'm working on. If I click story, it'll actually load all the pages that are in this story, and you can click and drag and move things around. In the current page I'm working on, let's just press enter, it brings it up. And a really cool feature, I accidentally found this out, but if you're using Manga Studio, the greater than and less than keys, they actually can just scrub through your story. So if I just press one, we'll go to, I think it's the previous page or the next page. Keep going, you can go to previous pages. So it's really cool. You can just scrub through all your stuff. And I'm assuming this probably eats up a lot of your RAM, but that's really cool. There's a lot of things that I do like in Manga Studio 5 though. Like some of their brush settings feel real cool. But from what I played around with, there's no reason to make the jump to 5 for me anyway. And that's just more of a comfort thing. Like I said, hell, I still use Photoshop CS. I think it's just CS. It might be CS3. I don't know. A lot of the work that I do, it's just like simple stuff, right? Like this is black and white line art. I'm not, Although, to be honest, I haven't really looked to see what a lot of the new features are in some of the software. So I've actually had I've actually had Manga Studio 4EX run up against the limit of memory, so that's a big up for Manga Studio 5 since you can use 64-bit. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, the pencil stuff. Oh man, I've talked to death about. That was like the first thing I jumped into. People were telling me about, oh, you gotta try out the pencil, and at first I was like, oh, the pencil still doesn't feel that good. And then I literally just lowered the size of it. Oh, I fell in love with it. I might actually start inking with the pencil for one of my projects coming up. But yeah, it feels more like a Photoshop environment. But I don't say reserving judgment. I think it's a great product. If people don't have it, I mean, just for the inking tools alone, to me, it's a no-brainer. I would definitely pick it up. But for myself, I'm going to wait until I hear more information about the EX version before I make like a switch or something. But yes, the inking tools are amazing. I would definitely use it over Photoshop. Some things I do like about Photoshop, but the speed that this kind of gives you, I don't know, it just feels more natural. More natural. All right. Okay, guys, looks like we got about 15 minutes left, so I just wanted to remind you guys, if you guys have any comments or questions like you guys are already doing, feel free to just throw them into the chat, and please just post in caps. The next couple streams, I should say, I don't know what we're going to be doing because there's some scenes coming up. Should we leave his fingers in there? Nah. There's some scenes coming up that I can't really show on the stream. They're kind of like, usually John, the writer, he pops in the chat as well. I don't know if he's in today, but usually we're all right with streaming whatever. But he would like a little bit of privacy on like the twist, I guess, at the end of the issue. So I can't really stream that stuff. So I'm thinking probably just for the hour anyway. Be working on some of my own stuff. So I don't know if we'll be doing a pinup or work on my own comic stuff. Might do that. But we'll see. Alright, let's get his arms going in here. Alright, let's Let's see if we can get these fingers all black in here. See how she looks. It's alright, I guess. Yeah, we're still hey John, are you working on a Cintiq 21UX or the 12WX? Yes, I'm working on a Cintiq. It's the small guy, the 12WX. I did used to work with a Intuos, another Wacom thing, and I've worked with a Bamboo. Both of those products gave me the exact same result. But the Cintiq, it just seemed. I was at a time where I've told this story before, where financially, it's not like I'm not rich, obviously, but I was at a time where I had like extra money, where it wouldn't hurt me in the next 6 months to buy a Cintiq. So I did some solid research because I don't like spending money, especially that much money. So I did some research, mostly from what I was hearing, the negatives about the small one, where the color is off, which it is. The color's off. Near the bottom here, you start to get jiggle, I guess. I've never experienced that ever. It does get a little away from me, so if I draw a straight line and I'm down here, like, I don't know. I've never really experienced it. And some other negative stuff, I guess. So I started asking around, and this was the hard part, finding things where it was, I'm not looking to color with this thing. I just want to know what it's like to draw black and white line art. Can anybody help me with that? And that was difficult to find any kind of information. And I think most digital artists are digital painters or concept artists, so that's probably why. A lot of the comic book community doesn't really talk too much for some reason. Probably busy drawing comics. But what made my decision really was a friend of mine actually owned the small one. And I had used it a long time ago, so I'd forgot really what it was like. And I asked him, what do you think about the smaller one? And he didn't like it. I'm pretty sure he sold his. I think that guy actually bought like that new one that just came out, that like HD powerhouse thing that looks just sweet. I think it's got like touch screens and stuff. Man, that'd be cool. But what he said was it was fine for black and white line art. And as soon as he told me that, I was like, what the hell, let's do it. So I bought that one, and I've had zero regrets. The only real regret, I guess, now that I have it, is like I wish I had more room. Like literally, I'm drawing on something smaller than an 8.5 by 11 area, so that sucks. But at the same time, I can't really imagine working without it now. Just not really necessarily the speed, but the accuracy as well. It feels how digital should feel. It's a little bit more slidey, people talk, but maybe one day I'll start saving up again for the big guy. Maybe. I don't know. It's not really a necessity, so see how that leg's looking. Yeah, there you go. You can just get a different nib on it. Yep. It's hard to go back, that's for sure. And actually, one of the things that's really cool is I think most people probably say the same thing, but their first dive into digital drawing at all is probably through Photoshop. Probably. And using the Cintiq in there, it was cool. It was like all of a sudden, I could get some certain lines out of it, but it just didn't feel the same. But when I loaded up Manga Studio, all of a sudden the inking was like, whoa, here she's been the whole time. the problem is like relearning software, right? And I don't know. For what we do, and I'm assuming most of you guys in the chat are probably interested in comics, at least in some degree, or you're probably here just for illustration, or you just enjoy listening to me talk. But if you're into comics and stuff, and you're looking for a way to digitally ink, Manga Studio all the way. All the way. You can do everything you're doing in here in Photoshop, obviously, but I mean, this program here, when you click File New, it literally starts. It starts with a comic page. That's all it's meant to do. Comics, and you can draw. You can do your illustrations and stuff in here, obviously. Yeah. All right, let's get our black going here. Oh, excuse me. See something. Yeah, it looks like a glob. Oh man. I got to fix that foot. Oh, rotating the page? Yeah. Like every now and then, I'll just start doing this, but I've gotten so used to just drawing straight curves and stuff like that. It doesn't even, I don't know, it doesn't really. I only really rotate it when things are like crazy. The other thing too, right, is you got to remember I'm using a Cintiq, and I bought a stand for it. It's called a Ergotron. So literally, I can just rotate this and get the angles I need. I don't need to press a button. But yes, that is an awesome feature that it does have as well. What's that? Your hand getting in the way of what you draw? Really? But this is literally just like drawing. Maybe there's something there that I'm not understanding. But, all that being said, digital still isn't for everybody, so I wouldn't attack somebody if they felt that way. Alright, let's just put some debris and stuff outside here. And okay, so we got this back room here. It's got some light. What I'm going to do here, just make another layer and try to just to help show there's like some light coming through here. Oops. Yeah, telekinesis drives. Oh, wouldn't that be the shit? Oh man, I apologize for all this sniffling, you guys. Just take a look. Yeah. Alright, so this is some of the stuff in the foreground here. We're going to get some, just render this up a bit. And this kind of stuff would just be like environmental detail, I guess you'd want to call it. Let me turn the ruler on here. Panel 3. That way at least everything's to perspective. Gonna fight around with it. All right, so the show's about to wrap up. We got about 4 minutes left, so I'll just leave it up to you guys again. Just give you one last chance to ask any questions you guys had, so we can answer it. If you're interested, show up for the stream again tomorrow. That'd be awesome. We've actually got 2 streams going on tomorrow. Tomorrow is a busy, busy day. So the first stream will be at the exact same time of today's show, and the same time it's been all week. So it's 4 a.m. to 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So look at the clock, whatever it says there, just subtract an hour. That's when the show starts tomorrow. And then as well, it'll be 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm thinking, at least I know for the 8 o'clock one for sure, we'll be doing some Squirrel God stuff. And if you have no idea what Squirrel God is, it's a comic book that I'll be working on. It's my own kind of idea that I had. But just go to YouTube. You can look at my stuff, or just type in Squirrel God and then Jonathan. Should show up. But there's this little trailer. It's not even like telling you anything about the story, really. But it does show some of the art, like some of the concept art and ideas that I'm developing for it. And I know some people dig that kind of stuff, so I wanted to put it up there for you guys. And as soon as this stream's done, I am blowing my effing nose. Here we go. Okay, so we got a good question right at the end. Drawing a pose with folded arms. Can't do it ever. Okay, so let's see if we can do this quick. Where are we going to draw this? Oh, God. All right, well, we'll just draw it up here. Hopefully we can... I'll just make a new layer. Okay. All right, so... thank you. So, drawing a pose with folded arms. I'm not going to get into the actual nitty-gritty details of it, but usually what we'll do the classic three-quarter stuff. It just gives us some action. I always like to start off with the chest area. Get an idea of like the curve that's going on. Whether you do it on the back there or right down the center of the chest in between the pecs, either way works. The arms are the folded pose, the folded arms. That's the most important thing. However, it doesn't look good if he's not standing right. So now that I'll have the chest, kind of throw in that curve again of the waist, and we'll put like that underwear shape for the pelvis. Now that I have all this information, I can start breaking this up. So we get that curve for the ribs. The straight line down here separates the middle. And then think of it like an action figure. That's a slot where one arm would be, and then the dots kind of would be on the other side. It's hard to see it on there. Here we can get a little like triangle shape, go straight across. That's your collarbones. Let's give them a little thickness there. And your pecs usually rest a little bit higher than the bottom of your ribs. And some people, they like to draw like this little shape in here to get an idea where the abs are supposed to go. One quick trick you can remember is like if you follow this line from the ribs, just follow that line like that, you'll get the abs that go in there, the first 2 abs. You can just follow them. But now we're getting into an anatomy thing. But okay, so we've got our stuff going. This waist is actually a little too long, but anyway. So we'd have that. I'm going to just turn it blue, make a new layer. So let's try to figure it out. How do the arms work, right? If you can go into like skeletal forms, think of it in a perspective. Everything's in perspective. So it's going to match up with that other elbow, and that's going to come in like that. So you can kind of go that way with it. Or if you want to get a little bit more closer to us. So the idea what you're doing here is just grab an eraser and a quick pencil. Just do some quick lines, points of reference so you can see. I normally don't draw with these little like ball line shapes. It's just helping me visualize it for you. So now that I have that, now you just work in your perspective. So you get like these little tube shapes. Make sure they got a curve to them. And that's going to go right into another one. Let's go further back. And then just do the same thing. The real trick here is getting that perspective down on these tubes. Like that. And your shoulder kind of wraps a little bit more than halfway up on the tube. So you can just throw in like a little quick shape like that. So I'm probably going faster than you'd like. But let's turn that one. Let's see if we can turn it red. I don't know if that's going to work. No. Okay, so let me lower the opacity down on the layer beneath it. So now that you would have all that information, that's where you could just go in there. And this is where like studying anatomy will help you, but I'll keep it very, what's it called? Simple with the anatomy. I like to do these things here where like you see how there's these openings in the tubes. That's because there's a joint that usually hits here, and it's usually a bone, right? So your elbow, I'll just do a little triangle shape. And the bottom point here kind of goes like this into your wrist bone. And there's like a muscle that wraps around that way. I'm not going to get into the specifics of it all. But here, you can kind of go up and make like little football shapes. That would be your triceps. And then on this part of the elbow, you've got the rest of your forearm here. Whoops. And that's where the bone clicks in. Then I would add a little bump at the top just to push his arm back there. And then your shoulder. And your bicep's going to be on the other side there too. But the other trick to remember with this stuff is you got to remember, just because like the arms affect everything. Every muscle usually affects everything. So when you lift it up and you bring your arms together, you're actually flexing your pecs, even if you don't really have much. But just remember that, because like now this muscle pops like this. This muscle pops. And your shoulder actually wraps in like that. So it does affect things, right? And then this side's a little bit easier, so we can kind of draw down into our elbow right here. Into the tricep, into the shoulders. And do stuff like this. You see how his arm just kind of like falls in there? Add a little line to show that the forearm is there. I mean, you could even go in there and add like a muscle line if you wanted to. And then here, you don't even have to worry about drawing the fingers if you just want to get your pose. And remember the bicep here, especially here, is going to pop up over the pecs. This would just study some anatomy will help. That'd be about it. So yeah, hopefully, that helped you a little bit. You just flip it to make sure it looks good. Yeah. Go ahead and you can toss all your other stuff in there. Okay, well, hopefully that helped you out. Again, just want to say thanks to everybody that stopped by the show today. Really appreciate appreciate all the support, especially when it's so early in the morning. Love to see you guys here. Thanks for all the questions and comments, everything like that. So thank you guys again, and I'll see you tomorrow, same time. Take care, keep reading comics, keep making comics, and we'll talk to you soon.